Important part of the Revit user interface is the visibility bar, which is located below the working area. Here we have, for example, possibility to change the scale of the view. When we are in 3D view, we won't see much going on when I'm switching between the scales. Maybe only the hatches will get bigger or smaller, but it's better to see the difference on the floor plan view where we have some annotation. If I switch to smaller scale, you see that all the annotation will get smaller, but it's just an illusion. All the 2D annotation in Revit stays always the same size. So for example, if this tag has 2 millimeters, it will always be 2 millimeters high, no matter what is the scale. The context changes, so the model elements size increase, so we have this illusion that the annotation changes, but in fact the model itself grew or shrink, depending if we are going up or down with the scale factor. Next we have something called detail level. We have 3 levels: coarse, medium and fine. If I toggle between those options, you may notice some changes in the model. For example, those solar panels on the highest level of detail have certain detail of solar cells, right? If I go to medium or coarse, the appearance changes. So those settings are in a way nested itself in the components. We can define them in the family editor, of course, which will not be covered in this course. But if I go, for example, to level 1, an interesting example would be walls. If I'm at the lowest level of detail, walls gets filled with the black color and they have only exterior lines. If I'm on the medium, I will see all the layers in the wall definition. Next icon is for the display settings. First one is wireframe, which is basically bunch of lines and everything is transparent. I use it in cases where I want to see 2 objects at once, wants to join them, cut them, and it's hard to do it otherwise. Next we have hidden line. So we have components, they are not transparent, but everything is black and white. Third one is shaded, which is colors plus shade component. Consistent colors, which is just filled static color all the way. You can see difference between shaded and consistent. In shaded we have all those nuances that gives us depth into the modeled element, like this topography. Next we have textures, so we see the texture of the materials applied to the model. You see, for example, we have concrete here or grass here, and we have realistic, where we also see the lighting settings. I rarely use the realistic and textures mode because I don't do the renderings anymore in Revit, so I don't even pay attention to the texture, to be honest. So for me, the style I like the most is for hidden line and shaded or consistent colors. Next we have sun path options, which we can activate. We can use specific project location, date and time. So we have all those settings. You see, I can also in 3D drag the sun, change the date, etc. And it will affect the shading, which we should activate if you want to conduct some simple shading study. I will turn off the sun path and shade it. And next to it, we have this rendering dialog, which I also don't use because I'm using mostly right now Twinmotion, which becomes part of the Revit subscription. In the view, we have even separate Twinmotion icon, and there the engine is much more robust. Next to this rendering dialog, we have cropping options. The best way to explain it would be on the floor plan. So we have those 2 icons. One allows us to actually display the crop region, and now I can drag and resize it using this shape handles. But you may notice that I'm cropping only geometry. Annotations stays the same, like this dimension line. If I want to crop the annotation as well, I would have to activate an option in the properties of the view, which is called Annotation Crop. If I activate that and click Apply, now I have this additional frame which is dashed, and I can crop annotation with it. Additionally, this crop region has option to, for example, divide it, move it. So there are some additional hidden options there. We can also edit crop and, for example, do it something irregular. Okay, so you see, I can also crop something like that. Of course, it's very abstract, so I can always go to reset crop, and that's it. We can actually activate or deactivate visibility of this frame, but we also can deactivate cropping. So we have multiple combination of visible, not visible, cropped, not cropped, which we will use usually at the documentation stage. Or if we have very huge model, then we want to usually sometimes focus on certain part. That's the situation where the crop region becomes helpful. Next to the crop region, we have also possibility to lock the 3D view. If I want to prohibit someone from orbiting the model, let's say I like really certain angle at which the house is located, I can save orientation and lock the view. Separate view was created, and now I cannot orbit that. Let me unlock the view. Icons next to it are connected to the hiding and visibility of elements, so we will focus that on a separate lesson concerning the hiding and isolating objects in Revit. I want to show you that we have some additional graphical display options which are located at the top of this list. And here, for example, I can activate smooth lines with anti-aliasing. I will be clicking apply, so you can see the changes on the screen as we go through the options. So you see this line become more smoother. So it's a nice touch to the presentation of such model. Of course, it's more demanding on the processor of your computer, so use this option wisely, especially on the large models. We can also apply some transparency to the entire model. Next to it we have shadows, so we can cast shadows. You can see some of the options are duplicated, but we additionally here show ambient shadows. You achieve this soft shadows visible, for example, in the corners of objects, of rooms, etc. Okay, next to it we have sketchy lines, which allows us to create like a hand drawing picture, which is usually how the initial architectural sketches looks like. So this is a nice presentation, especially for the conceptual phase. We can also apply those settings for the floor plans. We have depth queuing, which is usually used in the elevations. Maybe I will explain it later. And we have lighting. You can see that now the scene looks pretty dark, and I want to lighten it up a little bit. This is the good place to do it. So again, lighting, I will increase the ambient lighting bar and click apply. You see, it immediately becomes more clear and easy to read. I can decrease also the shadows. I can increase the sun effect. You see, this looks much better, not only for the presentation, but for your everyday work. So remember that we can do it under lighting setting, and I usually fix that for my first default 3D view. Of course, you need to assess the values on your computer screen, on your monitor, because it might differ depending on the hardware you are using. Next is realistic, which as I mentioned, I don't use that much often, and we have background option where we can apply sky or gradient. So we have some imitation of the sky using gradient as well. Of course, on a daily basis, I prefer none options. If you prefer to work on the dark environment, Revit introduced an option like that under the view Canvas theme, so we can toggle between dark and the light mode. In the future lesson, I will show you how to adjust the interface color so it doesn't clashes with the working space that much. You see, now it's white. I can show you how to make it darker.